This is your girl B, and you have now entered the chat. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Into the Chat with your girl B. Today I have some things in the house, and it's quite a monumental podcast episode because it's the first time that I have men on my podcast. I've never had the podcast before, so we need a different opinions about ladies. And I tried to keep them alright, palatable, for the video, you know what I'm saying? So you don't have to spread yourself out the whole time, you know what I'm saying? They're alright looking. So I got my two friends here today, Darren and my friend Morne. And yeah, please introduce yourself, tell people what you do, and so.
Okay. Hi, my name is Darren, content creator, business consultant, public speaker sometimes if people feel like taking a risk. Mostly on socioeconomic commentary, politics every now and then. That's my main focus, yeah.
Cool. And yourself?
I'm Morne. I work at a packaging firm, and in my spare time I enjoy working out. I dabble into the space of health, optimal performance, and as Bronwyn puts it, I hit the weights, but I also do yoga. So we'll get into the reasons for that, but yeah, I just believe that if everybody has a good time, the world should be a better space.
So y'all, this is some animal talk show today, and I brought you guys on for a reason. Obviously, I guess you're my friends or whatever, but
Yes.
I guess. I that's what I've tried to be doing for the last 15 years, and we still around, so
I've just been in Cape Town, and Bronny always comes back.
I can't deal. Guys, we can't have a messy episode. Can we be professional, please? It's like a real episode, Mona. It's like work.
Why be professional?
Okay, you know what? You're not gonna get me into I'm going back to my professional day.
I will get the real you out.
We don't want to show them the real me. We want to show them the put together. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like
but I'm
even dressed and.
Nah, so you dressed that. Like, so he's that for now.
So I think you guys are very different in terms of who you are as people. Obviously you guys don't know each other, but you are.
I feel like that was intentional.
It was very intentional because I wanted to get different perspectives on certain ideas, guys. Yes, a lot of people talk about dating and all of those sorts of things, but there are nuances to those things as well. So I just wanted to chat about what you guys think about certain feminist topics and those sort of things now, and how has it changed, the dating pool for you, the dating world, how has it changed the way you move about in life,
It's
those
difficult, huh?
Those sort of things. Did you just say it's difficult?
It's difficult. These days, shit, it's difficult. Oh my lord.
I'm glad someone's actually making
I'm gonna
be
be straight up. Maybe it's my perspective being in my 20s and now in my 30s, or maybe it's the environment, the social environment with gender-based violence, being a big and important topic. So, and us being a little bit more cautious and more tentative in approaching women. But I don't know,
Okay, wait, so let's get into that. So, can you guys tell me how you, like you said, it's maybe you're a little bit more cautious about how you approach women now. You're obviously talking about you don't want any sexual harassment cases, or you don't want to come off creepy or whatever, because there is all this noise about
yeah,
that.
100%.
But how has it changed you approaching a woman? So how is your approach different from Morne in his 20s versus Morne in his 30s, and same question to you?
Okay.
Seeing that you think you're so young also, but you are in your 30s, just so you know.
I'm aware. So how has my approach changed between my 20s and my 30s?
Yeah. Oh, with the movement, how was your approach to
I mean, I think the feminist movement is a lot older than I am, but there's obviously been, I feel like, another wave of awareness, especially for us as a country heading into democracy, because, you know, during apartheid it was rough for women all around, and then now it became more obvious that it was when we could actually have conversations about it. So in my 20s, I was a bit more oblivious to what women were going through on a systemic level. And so as that awareness increased, you stop, for me at least, I stopped expecting women to give me the benefit of the doubt. Like, you go more out there to make women feel safe, to take precautions, even if they don't take precautions for themselves, just because it's like, you don't need to trust me like that, because now awareness is starting to grow.
Yeah.
So I think in my 20s I was just a lot more assertive, a lot more in women's faces, because like, I'm not a bad guy, but that's
they don't know.
they don't know that.
Yeah.
So in my 30s I'm a lot more cautious, I'm a lot more reserved, I'm a lot more willing to let women make the first move, and in most cases just to leave them alone.
Yeah.
Because that's sometimes what women want, to just be left alone, just want to go to the gym and not be approached at all, which in my 20s I would just be like, ooh, like, let's go talk to her.
Exactly.
And now I'm just like, maybe she just wants to go to the gym and go home and do nothing and not be approached by a guy. Maybe today's that day.
True facts.
Yeah.
I literally hate going to the gym for those reasons, but anyway, it's another topic. Yep. And yourself, Lord?
Yeah, the gym's an important space. I think, as Darren said, and let's use the gym. I'm a very spontaneous personality. I like engaging with people. I think a big part of my personality is acknowledging people in a shared space. But a place like the gym, so I like to greet, and it's something my mom engraved in me since a kid. You know, you respect you respect another, you respect other life. You know.
Yeah.
And it's something as small as that I pull back on because of this topic. Because, like you said, I don't want women to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel impeded on.
Yeah.
I don't want them to feel intruded on.
Yeah.
So something as small as that, something that should have been a good thing, like greeting and smiling and making someone feel comfortable, has now been taken away. And like I've always maintained the theory that minorities in a group always fuck it up for the rest of the majority, you know? Whether it's extremist in Islam, or whether it's you get your groups in Christianity, or whether it's a bunch of shit South Africans that give us all a bad name. There's obviously guys that have caused this, but it's something that we need to be aware of, and although we're not involved in it, it's affected our lives, but at least we have the opportunity to respect it.
Okay, but wait, let's talk about that, because you're saying that, you know, it's a minority of people and whatever, and yes, they maybe messed it up for the rest of the male community or whatever. But at the end of the day, are you part of the problem if you are not, one, maybe speaking up about it, or you have maybe a group of friends and you know guys and they're always talking about like whatever, or talking about women in a certain way that is maybe not respectful.
Condescending.
Yes, exactly, you know what I mean? Because you know, like there are those WhatsApp groups, like we all know guys, like you guys have the WhatsApp groups and you send almost inappropriate stuff to each other and that sort of thing. Like, is that something where you as the person that's maybe not part of the minority that's, you know, abusing women or whatever it is, are you going to be the person that's going to say something like, has that changed in any way? Like, do you step up and say to your friend, like, the way you treated your wife or your girlfriend now is like not liquor, or like, why did you say that? Or like, do you realize that there's something wrong with the things that you are saying or the way that you move with women? Like, has that changed in your friendship group?
I've been fortunate not to be in a group or in a space where I've had to address that.
But would you?
I think 100% I would.
The problem is that's statistically impossible. Not that you haven't done it, but that you haven't had somebody in your circle. Because 37% of men have admitted to gender-based violence.
Yeah.
The chances are higher that she'll be sexually assaulted than learn to read in this country. So what I'm saying is, you're very right to say that we need to clean our houses out, like check our own homes. But that means that we need to do like proper inspections of the people around us. So what I'm saying is, it is statistically improbable that men in this country have not been around another man who's committed some form of sexual assault or gender-based violence, whether it be sexually based, domestic abuse, coercion, manipulation. It is improbable that we've not had an encounter like that.
I mean, I know for myself, it's tough to speak to my girlfriends who I know are getting abused. They are either getting physically abused or they are getting emotionally abused. And as soon as I bring the topic up, it's almost like I'm trying to bash the relationship. You know, like I don't want to see them happy and I'm unhappy because I'm single and whatever. And I'm like, that's not the thing. I'm literally like, I care for you. I want to protect you. I want to see you okay. But like, you know, obviously in abusive relationships, that person, the abuser has power over you and they obviously try and keep you isolated and those sort of things. So, you know, I've had situations with friends with one, either the friendship breaks up because they don't want to hear anything, they don't, you know, they don't want to be in my space, they don't want to acknowledge that there's anything wrong. So I've had friendships end. So would it be something you're comfortable with if anything ever happened, that we would like go to that place with a friend and be like, yo, we actually need to have a real chat?
I think it's, so there's a quote that goes, everybody knows somebody who's been abused, but nobody knows an abuser. Mm-hmm. We can't like exist thinking that the people who perpetuate this kind of behavior are putting it on display.
Yeah.
But with every measurable statistic that's going on with women, they are clearly everywhere. So the reason I'm saying that is because just because we think we know someone, and I mean we can take this to the most respected areas in society, which would be maybe religious organizations who have perpetuated the worst kinds of abuse. And then we can look at corporate behaviors, we can look at social circles like family. There's not a single area where there has not been women being subject to abuse. And the reason I'm saying this is because we don't know our friends like we think we do. So somebody asked me about recommending a friend to date, and I was like, I can't recommend a friend to date because I've never dated my friend. I know what kind of person he is as an individual there. What he is in a relationship, nobody knows except the person who's dated him. And so I think that kind of critical thought needs to be applied, because it's and this is the same kind of thing that happens when an abuser is called out and people find it very difficult to believe, because they know this person as an individual, they know him as a friend, they know him as a family member, and it is completely different from who he is in a relationship. I also like what you said earlier in terms of the conversations about abuse. I think for men categorize abuse differently from what they do women. Men have a very narrow category. Men think sexual assault in terms of penetration. Mm-hmm. Men think physical abuse in terms of a punch straight to the jaw. Mm-hmm. Men don't think physical intimidation in terms of you want to leave and I'm standing in front of the door. For a 90-kilo man like me with a 50-60 kilo partner, for her, she's like, I'm not going to get into this fight with you. So I've used my physical presence, even at that small, just because there's that privilege and difference in size. There's things like coercion and manipulation with regards to sex, being in very vulnerable environments, and where women say yes to sex all the time because they would rather have it go down than have it go down violently. And so when that woman leaves the relationship, she'll say, this was coercion, this was rape, and the person that raped her, he'll be like, no, it wasn't. Yeah. And in his mind, for the next 10, 20 years, he'll never admit to it. But for that woman, it was like, I said no, you were naked, you were on top of me, you didn't want to stop. I didn't want you to get violent, so I just let it happen.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that we sort of exist, and this is all things that I learned very recently, but men exist in this world where they've never been perpetuators of violence, they've never known anybody who's perpetuated violence, and from a woman's perspective, there's been several cases, and it's very hard for men to accept this when somebody says this is what your friend did.
Yeah.
Especially because they might have done the same thing.
Yes, 100%. And I've actually been in a relationship with someone that he had that realization when we were in the relationship, that I was talking to him about something that had happened to me, and he was like, oh my word, I've done that to someone. And I was like, yes, but it's so nuanced or minute for them that they don't even realize it, because it's always been okay and it's been accepted by society that men just act this way and it's cool. So for me it's funny, and I was never going to talk about this, but when you were talking now, I was like, it's so true, because now obviously I'm different. I've always been confident, but I'm confident enough to speak up now. I'm confident enough now for there to be consequences for someone, you know what I mean? Whereas before, if I go through life, I've been abused from a very young age, you know what I mean? By people close to me, and not even a very young age, I mean into my 20s, a friend of mine's husband, tried to put me down twice, at their birthday party, in the house.
And no man wants to be the subject of that revelation.
Exactly.
No man, and that's often why the trope comes up, why didn't she say something then?
Correct.
Because at the time, the woman did not know, or the child did not know that what was happening was
yes,
out of your control, or a manipulative situation, or, do you know what I mean? And so when you hey,
yes,
and sometimes I've heard of instances where women will then phone this person and say, listen, this is what happened, can we talk about this for some sense of closure? And the man will just be like, that's not how it went down, you were okay with it, you said yes, we even went 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And it'll just be if you didn't want to, why did you go the second round?
Yeah.
That's not how it works, that's not how, it's not just this, because consent is an ongoing thing, and so it's...
I think that's what also men maybe fail to realize, that consent is an ongoing thing, even if you are someone's partner. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's but it's things that have changed over the years, because someone wouldn't have said this 10, 15 years ago, right?
I think
these conversations.
Conversation is the first part of remedy, creating that safe space for someone to articulate the experience. So what do we do? Do we have podcasts and talk about it? But we essentially need to, these conversations, and hopefully one day, can happen at the bar between your mates, between your mates, because you had, like you said, now you experience a mate's husband,
and I never ever told
and
her.
you never ever told her.
That their relationship breaks up, but what about me?
Because we should address that fiber of his character.
100%.
And regardless of the truth, because it's your truth, and hopefully your friend would at least open her mind to looking at things differently and seeing things for what it is, instead of just shutting it down.
100%, but that's the norm, right?
Yes, so I think remedy first place is making these conversations comfortable, because up until now they are uncomfortable.
The problem is the narrative never changed, because everything is hush hush. We mustn't do this, we must protect that uncle, because we can't go to jail, and we love him, and he's in the streets.
No, he must go to jail.
100%, but
he must go to jail.
It's because we were keeping everything, silent. We weren't having these conversations. Women weren't allowed to
it's complex.
That's the thing. It's small little things. I think people really need to, or men specifically, really need to step back and be like, am I doing nothing? Because I think sometimes you've grown up in an environment that maybe was toxic, or maybe...
Look, we're not doing nothing.
Okay, wait. Maybe, hear me out, maybe lean into a more patriarchal society. So the things you deemed okay that you still deem okay or maybe not okay. What I wanted to ask you, so you are of a gym rat, you've always been, you played rugby, you're seen as like this masculine, blah, 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 whatever, that's how,
Masculine? Wow.
Whatever, I suppose.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And you also sound
Play no game, baby.
you're a gym bro. You know those people we are in the gym. Yes, you're one of those people, right? So, do you see yourself, or do you think that there's anything wrong with the fact that you go to yoga? Because I won't lie, like when you told me you go to yoga, I was like, that's so weird. But like,
You were like, he's going to yoga because he wants to look at the girl's ass while they're doing down dog.
I mean, you probably also doing that, but that wasn't my thought. My thought was
No,
just
I'm
like,
not doing that. For the record, I stand right in front of a class
No, that's not
specifically
what I
because
mean.
of our previous topic.
So they can look at yours.
I mean,
If they want to, I'm okay with that.
I judged you when you said you went to yoga in that moment because I was like, you just yoga? Like, it doesn't even make sense because of the way you look, right? So I also had to catch myself and be like, actually, that's like why am I thinking that way? That's actually not why. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why can't men go to yoga? So like, I'm, feeding into that narrative that men shouldn't do yoga, especially if they like these beefy. Like, I mean, you're not as big anymore, but I mean, still, you're like, why? I mean, he was bigger. You know what I mean? Like bodybuilders, like.
No, she's right. She's right.
But you know what I'm saying?
I think, Bron, fundamentally, I think fundamentally, and again, we spoke earlier about 20s versus the 30s, and now we've gained perspective. I think fundamentally, fitness, working out, health is the aesthetics is secondary. It's all about how you feel. It's about that opportunity is there to develop yourself, and I think to chase your potential and to own your space and to be comfortable in your space and knowing that I'm progressing. So first and foremost, it's about feeling good.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And like I said earlier, if everybody was feeling good in this world, it would be a whole different place.
100%, but I
Right.
mean,
So
it's
I'm,
right? But I'm just saying.
I'm not saying you don't have to go to gym
I mean,
and look good.
No, I'm saying I love that you go to yoga
Yes.
because like as a POC,
So yoga gives that's what I'm getting to. Yoga gives me a different experience and there's a different intention and there's a different set of progression in a different aspect of my life, as well as physical, and it's a bit of meditative.
Yes.
But it gives me benefits other than the weight room.
Did you ever in any moment think, oh my god, my friends are gonna think like, or like people are gonna look and see that I go to yoga? Like, did you ever have that like moment?
Let me give you perspective. It took me, I think I started doing yoga in 2018, 2017, either or, around that time. 2018, 2017. I started gymming in 2006. So what's that?
That's when we met.
Yeah,
Yes.
12 years. 12 years that it took me to get into a yoga class.
Right.
And I got into yoga class because of injury, because of misfortune.
Got it.
But it is a beautiful aspect or beautiful pillar of my life right now,
So in closing, I wanted to ask, in terms of like how you, because I call you out, well, not all the time, but I do call you out when I feel like, yo, actually that was a bit messy, or think about the other person's feelings, whatever. And I mean, I think you're someone who really does all of those things, but I mean, it never stops, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like you are in a better space than what you were in like a couple of years ago? Do you feel any regret with like your decisions that you've made before? Or is it like that's just life and I'm gonna continue trying to be better? Because you are someone who fights for like women's rights and
Decisions with regards to?
and like your own personal stuff. Like I'm being shady now because like I know your personal life. But,
Okay.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's nice to say stuff on the internet and
Yeah.
you sound amazing and all the girls are like, oh my god, we want a girl like you, a guy like you, and that's like
Don't like you, bro. What are you talking? What was happening there?
You know, like we all see this like amazing guy that we think is like, oh well, he's so like full woman and blah blah blah. And
So you're asking how's the application? How's like the actual applying this?
yeah, it's like are you actually applying the things that you're talking about? Like
So there's a lot more honesty from my side, and I thought honesty was just like, you know, telling the truth, but there was also like, you know, there's a fair amount of deception still. So I've just adopted this policy of a radical honesty to the point where I lay all my cards on the table all the time, and I make it so that the other person and myself, we know all the information. Let's decide what we want to do going forward. And what I've really allowed space for myself and for anybody I'm dating is to leave space for confusion. Like if you don't know, you don't know, and that's okay. And we'll work from there. If you don't know means we move on, then that's fine. If you don't know means we'll sit in this place of unknown for a little while and figure it out, that's fine. And the reason I'm bringing that up in this context is because sometimes pretending you have an answer is leading somebody on, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? Me doing it or my potential partner doing it.
thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed
Thank you for having us.
you guys.
Buddy, there wasn't music. I was gonna strip for you guys.
And on that note,
Let's get out of here quickly.